The signs that will finish this age, that will shake nations, will require more than the foundational ministries of the church. Some of those signs, like the things that Moses did, Elijah. No. It's not the office of an administrator that can do that. It's not the office of a teacher. Some of them are beyond the office of an evangelist. An evangelist can do a lot. Now, the reason is that beyond the offices, there are prophetic grace. Beyond being a prophet, there is a spirit of prophecy. Beyond being an evangelist, there is an mantle of evangelism. Beyond being a teacher, there is a teaching anointing. You don't have to even be in the office, but you can tap into the unction that makes it. He said, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. Your sons and daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall see visions. Young men shall see visions. Old men shall dream dreams. He didn't say you have to be a prophet. He just said the Holy Ghost has to come upon you. Is somebody hearing what I'm saying? Pastor Shola was building the first 10,000 auditorium we built in DC. And we were going to do camp meeting in that same building. And as of January, it was under construction. And camp meeting was going to be either end of March or April, Easter. Where we actually held camp meeting inside the building. It looked literally impossible. But God said so. The prophetic called forth all kinds of forces, including resources that we didn't have. But then halfway in the building, the economy of Nigeria went up to 400 and something, 420 exchange rates. Just suddenly, it went from 2 something to 420. Not this present government. I don't want to tell you the president. And so, we ran into problem. All the multimedia equipment. You can imagine when you were building here. All of the things we require. We are going to import the cooling system from Dubai. We went to one of the hottest regions to import so that it would be freezing people. When we jammed that place, there's something like AC was overpowered. We're going to bring in a multimedia from US. We're going to bring in all kinds of things. So we're now trapped because now we have to raise back all the money. The money that has been raised for the project, we now need twice the amount. So, and I was talking to the Lord. You know what he said? We had a group of praying women there. They had what they call the threshing floor. The Lord said, just get up and go and join the women. Sit at the back. Join them. I will tell you what to do. Don't raise fund anymore. So I said, okay. And I went there. I sat at the back. When they saw me, they wanted to, I said, don't stop. Because these women can pray down anything. I don't think they were even up to 200 people, whatever. And they kept praying. And I joined them. And we kept praying. Because activation, the prophetic does not function at a low plane. The prophetic is ego. It comes from that other dimension. Is somebody hearing what I'm saying? Activation. And we were praying. There's somewhere along that other mantle came on me. And then I was lifted. He said, stop looking at what you see at the economy. Speak and crash the economy back to 200. I said, Lord, what? He said, I said, crash the economy back to 200. I said for the third time, Lord, you're talking about a nation's economy. He said, speak. We crash it. I got up in front of those women and announced the crashing of Nigeria's economy down to 200. 2 days it happened. 2 days. It just took 2 days to happen. 2 days. Then he said, once it goes down, tell your people to import all the things. That is for a while. I'm only doing it so you can get this building built. I commanded you to do that. And tell them it's going to last for a few weeks. I will hold it like the water that divided at the Red Sea. And when again, I announced in church, And not only that, we are bringing in all our things. Any of you that have sense now, that wants to bring anything, move fast. People took advantage of it. Because this is not the first time. They've seen me. They've seen this, seen it. Some of our business people went into Naira exchange. Oh, they made forex business. They made so much money, I'm telling you. Of course, when one reported to me how much money he was making out of that, I was tempted. I said, Lord, can I go? He said, you dare not move an inch. Stay here and hold our rod. After all our equipment, everything we needed from outside the country entered, he said, tell them 1 more week. The thing will crash back. Go back to where it was. I think, or 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks, yes. And then the 2 weeks, and the thing jumped. 400. People who took advantage of, made so much money, they were now selling their whatever, but all our equipment. And we heard camp meeting end of March inside that building with all the equipment inside. How do you explain that? How do you wake me up as a man now? I say, do it. If I know how to do it, then the prophetic and apostolic are the prince of the fivefold ministry gifts. There is another dimension of force that is resident at that peak. You don't have to be an apostle or go and sew one garment and start with a title. It's a mantle. I say it's a mantle. If I tell you things, see Pastor Norbert, he's here. I was on my way to Accra, and he was the one that received me when I got in, and got me accommodation. So my flight had been booked early morning. I was preaching this Saturday evening, preaching on Sunday morning. And so after settling me, I said bye-bye to him. He took off to Enugu. I had no plan that I would be attending his service. If I knew, he wouldn't have traveled. 3 a.m. in the night, the Lord said, your trip is suspended. You are going to Ikeja for service in the morning. I said, Lord, but I gave my word to the people on the other side. He said, do we still need to argue after all these years? I said, no, sir. He said, head there. I will put my word in your mouth. He told me 3 things. He said, I'm giving them, they were in a hotel, small hotel hall. He said, I'm giving them event. This was what month? October. I was heading to Accra for their convention in October. Their convention was in October. And that they will be holding their annual major conference, Maranatha conference, in it by December. That is madness. If I want to use my head, October, December, people that are in one small hall in a hotel, old snob. And how much did your church have then?
3 million.
3 million naira. They bought that property for 1.2 billion. They bought a company. And he said, speak to the 4 winds to bring the funds. So early in the morning, I went for the service. The pastor is not there. The wife saw me. She was frightened. I said, calm down. Record everything. Send it to your husband within 24 hours. And then the prophetic hit. He said, speak. If you see the things that were happening. Then he said, from where they are now, so whatever, there is a property. Tell him when he drives down, he can't find it. He should come back and do a second time. If he does the second time, he can't find it, he should come back and drive a third time, he will see it. Three months to December. How is that possible? When the wife called, he rushed back the next day. When they finished giving him the information, because the next day now, I didn't go for I flew to Accra to join the he flew to come and catch me. I said, you want to confirm? I said, yeah. And they went and found the building and bought it, fixed it. December, Bishop Masika, that the Wampa was there dedicating the building. That's why you see the first day as we are coming in, everywhere was still scattered. The first day of the program. By the second day, the program took off. If I tell you how we got here, the amount of mysterious things that has brought us here, things that are hard for human mind to explain. How does a man say by this time tomorrow, so is in the middle of a famine, a cup of gari, or you say a bag of rice will start selling for 1,000 naira? Who is going to believe you? How much is a bag of rice now? I'm waiting till the day of atonement will be called for Nigeria. I know that day is coming. Mysterious things will happen. After repentance and after we have reconciled these tribes that are divided, people will see that God can build a nation in one day. The prophetic can take a poor man now, here, take him, put him to sit with kings. It does not take God anything to make a man. Just like it doesn't take him anything to humble him too. You see how a prophetic took a king, a reigning king, so powerful. Not just king over his country. He was ruling the whole world. Nebuchadnezzar sent him on exile for 7 years. Returned him to monkey, chimpanzee. Prophetic. This is by the decree of the watchers. To the intent that the living might know that the Most High rules in the kingdoms of men. And he gives it to whomsoever he will. Let's get back to that book. Revelation chapter 8. Let me read from verse 1. Do you see? This is how the 7 trumpets was unlocked. So you need to learn the keys that unlock it. You don't just sit down. You're not an intercessor. You don't worship. You don't. These prophets create the atmosphere of worship and prayer. It is in that environment that God speaks. Because you see, we dare not say anything till we hear. Acts chapter 13 said, as they ministered to the Lord, you see the role of worship and fasting. They were doing worship and prayer and fasting. As they ministered to the Holy Spirit said, separate from me Paul and Barnabas. You're not hearing, it's because you're not doing the needful. You want to use your in the flesh and hear God. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. When he has opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of a half an hour. Verse 2. And I saw this. Remember, we have done the implementation for the seals. But now the final seal, so we're about to open another dimension to end time prophecy. The 7 trumpets. Look at what went behind it. And I saw 7 angels stand before God. To them we are giving 7 trumpets. But before they could blow it, watch, another angel came up. Verse 3. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and they was giving him much incense, that he should offer it with what? The prayers of the saints upon the golden altar, which was before God. Incense is worship. Worship goes with prayer. And then we can hear what thus said the Lord. And then we can prophesy. This is what God is saying. They have not stood in my counsel, yet they ran. So whatever they are declaring, it lies. They are prophets of their own mind, their own intention. They just speak out of their own mind and their own heart. He said, they will not help these people. They will not help these people. Standing in God's counsel is the first law of the prophetic. That's why you notice sometimes the prophets are doing atonement, praying, interceding for Israel. Then the word of the Lord comes. That is the protocol. As a minister to the Lord and fasted and prayed. The Spirit of the Lord said, when they offered this incense with the prayers of the saints on the golden altar, which was before the throne, verse 4 said, please, 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 I am going somewhere. The smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before God. And verse 5, out of the angel's hand, and then the angel took a censer, filled it with fire from the altar, cast it into the earth, and there were noises and thunderings and lightning and earthquake. Then these 7 angels were now ready to prophesy. They were now ready to blow the trumpet. And the 7 angels, we had the 7 trumpets. Now God himself ready to sound. If you will know this secret, blessed are you. Pastors, you want to elevate your ministry to a new dimension. There is a dimension to ministry. It's just being a church pastor. When you finish preaching, in the middle of your preaching, sometimes even before you're preaching, and you bless the people that week, the weeks that will follow, you see the effect happening in their lives. It's not just information you give them. One prophet said, you will not see wind, you won't see rain, but dig those pits, they will be filled with water. Don't ask God how he does what he does. That is his own specialty. He is impossibility what? Specialist. And the next day, that's exactly what happened. No rain, no water came from direction and filled all day. Let me kind of touch something on end time prophecy. Yesterday I was making a point. Okay. I'm going to open up what they call the 70 weeks of Daniel, especially the last 7 years, the 70th week. I'm going to open up something on that. It's a discussion that will still be ongoing. Daniel chapter 9, verse 24. Four verses, 24, 25, 26, 27, but pregnant with historic, that's events that will cover from the time of the rebuilding of Solomon's temple that was destroyed all the way to the second coming of Christ. How can 4 verses travel that distance? Only 4 verses. Verse 24. 70 weeks are determined upon your people. You know, these weeks are weeks of years. So each week is 7 years. We have weeks of days, every 7 days, you know, a week complete. We have weeks of years. Every 7 weeks you have what they call the Shemitah. 70 Shemitahs are determined upon the people of Israel and upon the holy city, that's Jerusalem, to do 5 things: to finish transgression, to make an end of sin, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Actually, if you break it into details, there are 7. All these things must happen within these 70 weeks, and that's 490 years. Verse 25. We need to know when the 70 weeks will start counting. And we also need to know when it will end. Because according to these 7 elements listed there, by the time it ends, everlasting righteousness will be on the earth. And you know we are not there yet. And that cannot happen until Christ returns. But among the things that will happen in between is that the Messiah will come and make atonement for sin. And some other things. Of course, let's read verse 25. Know therefore, understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks, 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, the wall, and even in trouble sometimes. Now, to start with, can I borrow 5 guys here? Or should I write it for you on the board? 5 guys will make it easier for me. Only guys. And only 5. Yeah, Chairman, maybe you can go, eh? This man can be my last, the coming of Christ, yeah. Yeah, one of you should go. Just a little space. Now, the first thing you need to see here is, okay, come, sir. Let's add a component that may not be captured here. Yeah, stand there. Daniel is here, living in Babylon. Jerusalem was destroyed by the Babylonian Empire. So the first temple, that temple that Solomon built, was destroyed, invaded, because of the rebellion of the kings and the people of Israel at that time, especially the last 4 kings, and I don't have the time to discuss them. There was a young man who came to power around the age of 6, 7 called Josiah that led a mighty reform and revival right after him. His parents were evil. His grandfather was the worst king Israel had, called Manasseh. After Manasseh died, his own father was evil, wicked like his father, because Manasseh repented and God restored him and used him to bring reforms. But his own son, and this is what happens, it takes 1 generation to lose everything we have worked for because of our failure to disciple the next generation. After Manasseh's reform, removing idolatry from Israel, he was wicked, evil. He did all kinds of evil. But he repented later when he was carried away to captivity. And God brought him back. His son, having watched judgment of his father, and how God showed him mercy, and how he now, for the remaining part of his life, lived a righteous life, restored and rebuilt. Instead of, he came to power after his father, instead of following in the righteous footsteps, went back into evil. Took Israel to idolatry, even tried to surpass his father in evil. Both witchcraft, occultism, bloodshed, idolatry, every imaginable thing. But then when that one died, his own son was Josiah, a little boy that led a revival. One day we will have to discuss him, because all of us need to learn the secrets that that young man deployed in transforming this society that is decaying. What can turn the tide for America right now is his Josiah kind of leadership. A Josiah type of believers. We're talking about leading change in a time of terrific moral decline, the time of terrible darkness and backsliding state of not only a nation but even temple worship. The priests were corrupt, the prophets were corrupt, except that gentleman called Jeremiah. Then, of course, later you have Ezekiel and some others. So Jeremiah the prophet was the one warning all these kings, this nation will be destroyed, the temple will be burned down. They repent. They wouldn't listen. Because right after Josiah, 4 different kings emerged. 3 of them were his sons. All of them did evil. The first one lasted in office for only 3 months. Second one, 11 years. Third one, 3 months. Last one, Zedekiah, that's him, that particular one, Nebuchadnezzar removed his eyes, carried him to Babylon. He died there. Shameful death. Because they wouldn't listen. Even tried to attack Jeremiah, put him in a dungeon. And then Nebuchadnezzar, after destroyed, because of his rebellion, his revolt, he now burnt the temple, destroyed Jerusalem. So Daniel the prophet said, it will not end with destruction. It will not end with judgment. That a new season of hope and restoration will come. But between now and then will take 70 years. It is this 70 years prophecy that Daniel the prophet read. Daniel is now living here when that word should be fulfilled. And there's a reason why I'm making this illustration. Like what we just read about, studied about Lance Lambert prophecy and many other critical prophecies that have to do with our time now. They won't just fall from the sky. Daniel chapter 1, look at it. Daniel said, I understood by the book the number of years. I'm reading from verse 1. The number of years that Jeremiah the prophet said that we will accomplish 70 years in desolation of Jerusalem. So this destruction was going to last for 70 years. So if you start praying, Lord, change the situation, 35 years, your prayer will be answered, but that prayer will wait 35 more years before God can answer it. God will say, I've heard, but 35 more years. Don't try to pray away end time prophecy. Study it, understand it, and use it as a strategy document. You cannot stop Jesus from coming. You cannot stop earthquakes from happening. You cannot stop a pestilence from happening. You cannot stop Antichrist from coming. You cannot stop hurricanes. But you can keep yourself safe even when all this is happening. Actually, I've also learned that we can direct it for your place. That's another subject matter. Yes. You are coming, you are wind, turbulent wind, head in the other direction. Leave my house alone. You see this same Jeremiah that prophesied all this doom. Not one of them touched him. Anybody that comes, including Nebuchadnezzar, they say, Oga, you can stay here, you can come with me to Babylon, and I will look after you. If you choose to stay here, we will let you stay. Jeremiah said, I want to stay in the promised land. And they left him alone. There are certain privileges God gives intercessors. He said, whenever judgment will come, an angel is sent out to mark them on their heads. Mark the heads, the faces of all the men that are interceding and sighing over the iniquity and the things that are going on. And once judgment starts, they are spared from it. There was one time God said, intercession of certain critical men like Moses and some others will not be able to stop him from judging. But he said those men will save their own souls. If as Noah, you are not able to save your world, you will save yourself and your family. Become an intercessor. Become an intercessor. Become an intercessor. There is no recommendation for the survival of the church in the last days in the Bible, in all the prophetic writing, that is more than the recommendation to watch and pray. Even though end time events will still happen, the hand of the intercessor will guide it in a way that it will not only work out the purpose of God, but it will also work out the preservation of God's people. Let me give you an example. Jesus was talking in Matthew chapter 24 about the things that will precede his coming. Then he recommends watching and prayer. But then he said to his disciples, pray that your flight will not be on the Sabbath day. Did you see the last attack on the Jewish nation? What is that vulnerable day when they normally attack them and they catch them off guard? When they are all on the Sabbath praying in the synagogue, praying, or they're observing one of their feasts, maybe they're in the middle of that. That's exactly what the Palestinians did to them again, this last one. He said the events will happen, you can't stop it, but your prayer can shift it on a day that is favorable for your nation. He said, pray that the day the invasion will happen, that it won't be on winter. I want you to watch again. Because on winter, you are now running for your life with snow. Many of the people will still die. So he's saying, you can't stop prophecy from happening, but prayer can guide it away to happen in summer or when everybody can escape. So you won't stop earthquake, but that doesn't mean it's my house. You won't stop accident, but that doesn't mean it's the bus I'm traveling in. There will be wars and rumors of war, but that doesn't mean it must be your country. You can shift it. Let another country take it. If not, Nigeria would have been in the middle of one. It was deflected. Oh, prophecy said 1/3 of population will be wiped out with epidemics. That's COVID and things worse than COVID. But it doesn't have to be Africa. Well, don't say you can't happen. But don't come near my house. And don't come near the church. Satan, the blood is against you. Everyone say that. Intercessors are God's co-laborers, collaborating with him to direct and orchestrate even the end time events. Because you have seen that it is Jesus that is breaking the seal, deciding what happened. And later it is 7 angels. So since they are the angels of your Father, and all angels are ministering spirits sent forth to minister, to help those who shall be heirs of salvation. Since these armed forces are on our side, we have to make sure through intercession that their bombing does not kill our civilians. That when they are hitting, that they don't bomb. Is somebody hearing what I'm saying? That's why everywhere I showed you, it is intercession that was guiding the unfolding of prophetic events. It is not Satan deciding the future. It is Jesus holding the seal and unlocking the future of events. It is not Satan deciding what happens. It is 7 angels sounding trumpets and unleashing events that will happen on the earth. If you understand the ministry of angels, Planes will crash from the sky, but it must not be the one you are flying in. If an asteroid is coming from the sky and it has to hit, it must not be your house. Let me tell you, it's not only your house. You can keep your city safe. You can keep your nation safe. He said, if I see a man, if I find a man that will stand in the gap and make up the hedge, then heaven will respond and judgment will be. So I see the power of intercession. Abraham could not stop the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, but he stood before God on behalf of his niece or nephew, Lot, and Lot's family. And even though he didn't stop that nation from being destroyed, the angels who were to carry out the execution, the judgment, removed Lot and his family from the overthrow. Are you guys hearing what I'm saying? They brought him out. I said, run to Zoar. Run to the mountains. Nothing will happen there where you are. Every other place will be destroyed. If God, the covenant-keeping God, could do that in the Old Testament and every other time in history, there's even a harlot that was caught in the crossfire when Michael and his angels led onslaught against the city of Jericho. Joshua was asked to sound the trumpet. Let the priest sound the trumpet. After they marched 7 times for 7 days. And the armies of heaven invaded. And then the armies of Israel followed. There was a woman who took care of the 2 spies sent by Joshua. And they extended a covenant of protection over to her. She was a hidden, she was a harlot. For looking after, providing hospitality for God's people. They extended what belonged to the seed of Abraham over to her. Told her to tie a scarlet thread on her. Do you know when Michael and the armies of heaven came to invade, they cut off. You know, I have seen videos and pictures of how the operation happened. They were pulling down the walls of Jericho, and the woman's house was on the wall. They cut off this side, cut off this side. The earthquake that sank the wall shook this part, sank this part, went around, sank the whole wall. The only thing standing was the house belonging to a harlot because of the blood. The scarlet thread represents the blood. It's the same thing they did in Egypt when the whole Egypt, the angel of death went around Egypt. And the firstborns were dying. God told them, put the blood of that animal on your doorpost. So they told the woman, take a scarlet, a red, tie it on your door, on your windows. Heaven will recognize what it means. So when COVID came, the whole world was in uproar. We went back to the ancient weapons in the Bible and brought the ministry of angels to bear on our brethren, and they were all over the world. Some of them were first responders. They were in the medical field. And there were sometimes they would call me from America. This one will call me from Paris. This one will call. They say, I've got, these are doctors. I said, to hell with COVID. We rebuke you. You agent of death, you spirit of death, you destroyer, moving over the land of Egypt. Stay your hand from God's children. Stay your hand. And I said, Doc, you know this one they didn't teach you in the medical school because this does not make scientific sense. It makes kingdom sense. Go home now and break communion with your family. And they will break communion. They will go back, test, COVID has taken off. There are all sorts of things that we saw. And God preserved our people all over the world. The ones that learned from the beginning to put the blood like Harold, it didn't even come near their family. The ones that got it, we still drove it away. As a leader in your home, as a leader in your company, as a leader in the church, as a leader in the society, we must understand God's prophetic ordinances as we speed towards the coming of the Lord. The prophecy of Lambert said, those great shakings. He said, fear not, fear not, fear not. Actually, 4 times. Because after that, he counted 3 times. He now read another fear not. Those things are not meant to destroy God's people. He said, you are my bride. You will reign with me, even in the midst of all this. So end time prophecy is not to frighten God's children.